Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Illumineers Quest podcast, where we talk everything Lorcana. I'm Zach.
And I'm Jacob.
Thanks for coming on this journey with us. Okay, this is a long time coming. This is the end of season 1 of the podcast.
We got chapter 2. Here we go, man.
This is the end of season 1, the chapter 2 preview episode, season 2 preview episode, as we move on to Rise of the Floodborn that releases Friday, and the new set and everything that's coming with it.
Goodbye, season 1. Hello, season 2.
A lot of juicy stuff continues to release. We continue to get more and more hype, and so we'll go over some of the new releases. I think we'll talk about specifically the decks we've built now and what we plan on playing. A lot of that's pretty fleshed out at this point. And yeah, just what we're excited for. You know, a lot of the changes, what we think will make it fresh and everything, and kind of go from there. So with that said, let's get into it. So as always, if you are interested in our content and want to follow us in other places, you can follow us on TikTok at Illumineers Quest, YouTube at Illumineers Quest, Twitter at Lorcana Pod. You can also email us at lorcanapod@gmail.com. And if you are listening or watching on YouTube, you can follow us on Spotify, Apple, iHeart, any of the other major podcast network. So also, quick shout out, I want to say this right now. If you are listening to this, you already missed the first one, but we are doing a test live stream right after recording this to do a couple box openings. On Friday, the release day for Rise of the Floodborn, we are doing a live stream of everything we open. So all of our boxes, all of our troves, the Disney 100 collector set, we're opening it all live on stream. So if you want to follow along with us, you can watch us on our YouTube channel at Illumineers Quest on YouTube, like I just mentioned. So that'll be fun next week as well, or the end of this week as well. Okay, so questions and comments from listeners. I don't have anything specific this week, but I do just want to shout out our community that we've started to build and everything, because there's a ton of people that have been hyping us up recently, and so I just kind of want to give the listeners a shout out.
We appreciate all of that so much. To have a little bit of a feeling that we're growing a community here is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, so Dylan K on YouTube has been commenting 5 times on every YouTube podcast episode. That's incredible.
That's awesome. That's
Dylan,
so cool.
We really appreciate it. Vicky on Twitter on X is always super active as well, and always commenting and around for the content, so we love that as well. And then Adam has always been around and asked a bunch of questions, and I think he's emailed us once and asked a bunch of questions on X as well. And so again, thanks for the community and building and the interaction and everything. It makes our time here creating this a lot more enjoyable, and so we really appreciate it, and we really appreciate the support and everything that goes along with it. So nothing specific, but we just wanted to give an appreciation moment post for everybody that has been along this journey with us, because it's been a really fun ride. And as we again close this book on chapter 1/season 1 going into season chapter 2, be a lot of fun.
Yep.
Okay,
I second what you say.
That's an easy way to do it. So okay, card of the week. This is a standard bit here, but it's new because chapter 2 preview, first chapter 2 card. Card of the week.
And this is a card we have not discussed yet. This is Alice Growing Girl.
Brand new one off the press. I cannot argue with that, because that's one I really want to talk about today.
So it's 3 cost, Inkable and Sapphire, 1 strength, 4 willpower, 1 lore, and it has 2 abilities. First one is Good Advice. Your other characters gain support. So all your other characters on the board gain support. And then her other ability, What Did I Do? Is it says, while this character has 10 strength or more, she gets +4 lore, so she'll quest for 5.
Yeah, so that's insane.
That is absolutely ridiculous. It is a legendary, I will say that. I believe it's the first legendary we've gotten for Sapphire, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so. I think we've gotten a bunch of super rares with Cogsworth and Grandpappy and a couple others, but I'm pretty sure you're right on that one, yeah.
But when I first saw this card, it took my dad 50 minutes for me to explain him the card, but it's incredible, really.
Oh, I love it too. I don't want to get too much into it right now, because that's one that I really want to talk about, because in the what we're going to play, what we're excited about section, that was a big topic that I had.
Oh, my bad.
No, you're not stealing thunder. That's a good preview.
Okay.
Okay. That's a jumping off point to stick around, to continue to hear.
Segue.
Yeah. It's a segue into what we're going to continue on with in the future, because that's a big one that I really like as well. I think it gives a lot of possibilities. So here's the preview that I'll give for it. One, I think it's an incredible, just like alone, the support that it gives to everybody else. If you have even one or two other characters on the board, like that alone can really help you take down stronger opponents and make the impossible task of like clearing off the board a little bit more possible, because it grants more willpower to everybody. But two, it's a massive target because of the gaining lore ability, kind of like you get from Bell. But three, like, it just makes it a massive target. I think there's just so many dynamics to having that card on the board that it just is really, really cool. And there's so many different ways you can play it. I think it can be super aggro with the 3 costs, and we'll get into that in a little bit in a minute. But I think it's an incredible card. So I'm really looking forward to that one too.
Absolutely, that's why I brought it up. Just super exciting legendary. That's a low cost legendary, which is even more exciting. But we'll get into it a little bit more later in the episode. But that's what I have to say on it right now.
Okay, so recap, what's on our mind, and any news. I think the news is all around Chapter 2 again. Like, we're right around the corner, and there just continues to be release after release. And so without going into too much of that right now, because, again, that's the main topic of today, I think we got to talk about, like, League Night this week. A lot went on.
Yeah, so, I mean, really a good night for everybody.
Yeah.
So we got our reprints shipped in the night of the League Night.
Yep.
Season 1 finale, I guess you could call it.
Yeah, for anybody that follows us on X, I definitely posted about that the second we found out that was going to happen, and said, restock's coming, we will have more cards to open finally. Because we haven't opened like this many cards since the release weekend.
No, we have not.
So that's the entry piece, but the really like detailed version of that is you and your family were extremely late to get said boxes, were you not?
Yes, we were. Very stressful time, I'll say that.
Okay, so let's put it this way. I got there like 25 minutes before they were going to start selling the boxes or giving them out to people. They had 19 available. I was 9th in line. So not that many left. By the time Jake got there were 23 people there.
And they did say this was 1 per person.
Yes, I forgot that. Yes, so the 1 per person piece, like that's a big one. 1 per person. Luckily for us, or I guess luckily, unluckily, I would have hoped that the store would have prioritized people that had come at least like twice to the league to play, but they didn't. However, I have to give a big shout out to all of the community that we have been playing with at the store, because 2 of the members had everything from Chapter 1 that they wanted, and so they didn't want a box. And so they were willing to use their place in line to let us, yourself, and your brother get boxes. And then a 3rd member was hoping to get more Rise of the Floodborn next week, and so he didn't want to spend the money on another box. And so we were able to get 3 boxes from the members that we have been playing with for the past 3 months. And so it was cool to just have, build those relationships and have that pay off and really have a good, strong connection with everybody and be able to get the boxes when we otherwise wouldn't have been able to. I
mean, I couldn't thank those individuals enough.
Yeah.
Really came through for all of us. My dad, my brother, and me. We were all able to open some Lorcana together because of them. So that's really just goes to say how strong, this community can be.
And how much we've talked about like how good our local scene is, or how like nice everybody is.
I mean, it was unfortunate that we couldn't have got it ourselves, but it was a super incredible, like, just cool moment.
Yeah, and I think to put the feather in the cap, your brother opened something.
Yeah, I feel bad about telling you this, and I never want to tell them they got the boxes. Like, I never want to tell them what he pulled.
Nah, it doesn't matter. I mean, you always feel terrible. I'm always happy. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, he opened, is it a bell, right? He opened Enchanted Bell. So, yep. I don't think we've talked about this, but your brother is just apparently the pull wizard.
Yep, except for Pokemon celebrations, he has the crown on everything else.
That's, insane.
Everything else.
So anyways, so we've got 1 enchanted from the pulls. We're opening 2 boxes on our test live stream on YouTube in like 20 minutes. And so we are maybe get another one, maybe not. We'll find out.
We will see.
That being said, we also ended the league, and we had the recaps of everything. I was lucky enough to finish second overall, so that was fun. I got all 3 pins now. I have the Ariel, the Scar, and the Lorcana League pin, so really, really pumped about that. I have a play set now of promo Mickeys, Detective Mickey cards, so that's crazy. And then, you and your brother both got pins and promos as well.
The main pin. All 3 of us left with the maybe one of the main reasons I played League, besides like getting to know the game and the people in the community, was to get the pins.
Those pins were crazy.
And I was lucky enough to get one. I told my brother, like, he's like, I got one too. So I got mine from skill. He got his from luck. I just want to point that out there. There was a top 8.
Just say what place did you end up in?
Top 8 in the league got the pin, the main Lorcana pin. I was 8.
Okay.
Well. And then everyone else, it was like a raffle, random raffle for the 9th one. My brother won that.
Yeah, and you ended up in 8th after missing a month too.
Yeah.
So that's solid performance there.
Thank you, sir. But I tell my brother, I got mine from skill. You got yours from luck.
Oh, I will never let him live that one down either. Yeah. Did he get his a whole new world playset? We haven't talked about that. I'm just genuinely asking you that because you haven't told me yet.
From his polls, yes.
He did? Okay.
He's got it. And then I think he got even one more giant fairy that he needed. Cool. So he's got that going.
Yeah, so I think that kind of wraps up. We didn't mention here, but we might have a little bit of our first special guest on the main portion of this episode coming in here pretty shortly. So first guest, one of our good buddies that has played with us a couple times, incredible artist. Will be fun to have him come in here and talk about his journey with us.
I'm looking forward to that. He's a Lorcana player a little bit himself, so
yeah. He also, I think it's worth noting, he created the logo and all of our artwork for us.
Yes, he did. That's huge.
Massive shout out to Spenser /Spenser3D on X/Twitter. Go follow him if you like cool art, because he's a fantastic digital artist. So with that being said, let's get into the main topic. And Spenser, thanks for joining us.
Alrighty.
Okay, so main topic again, we're doing Chapter 2 preview stuff. So what we're excited for, how it's kind of changing the game, what we're going to play a little bit, and get Spenser's opinion as well, since he's here hanging out with us. So I know you're not near as into it as we are necessarily, because we eat, sleep, and breathe this, but what have you paid attention to? What have you seen? And what are you most excited for?
Well, I went through the app the other day and scrolled through all the new cards, and I'm kind of looking forward to Amber.
I'm in the same boat.
Yep, me too. I mean, we're going for the Royals, so I think we're all excited for Amber. Yeah,
so Amber, the new Rapunzel that draws off of people's healing. Like, that's insane, right? Like, anytime you get healed. Have you seen Grandpappy? Did you pay attention to Grandpappy?
I did not notice that one.
Okay, so Grandpappy is a Sapphire card. He is 7 cost, uninkable. His, big thing, though, is that he gets lore off of people's healing. So his Grandpappy's ability is you get 2 lore for every time you heal someone. Oh. So.
Yeah.
I mean, that brings a lot of, what am I looking for? Good healing, good item cards that weren't necessarily used.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess, so the actual ability is Ancient Insight, and it says whenever you remove 1 or more damage from one of your characters, gain 2 lore. Mm-hmm. So imagine Giant Tink comes in, deals damage to 3 characters on your board. You play Grandpappy. Since he's on the board, that ability is then active, and you have Dinglehopper and, I don't know, Coconut Basket or Gumbo, which will hear 2 characters. You can get 6 lore for not having to do anything or exert your characters or put them in danger or anything. And so you can get the lore and then challenge to help clear their board off and still get lore.
So do you not play Cogsworth? You don't play Cogsworth in
No, because you want damage to be done. Yeah. I thought that initially. If you have the resist 1, then that reduces the amount that they can deal to you. And so you want that in there, for sure. So I guess since we're on this and the healing, that's so one of the decks so I've got 2 main decks that I'm going with. I kind of mentioned this in the start. But the second deck is Grand Pabby centric with a lot of Amber healing. So you have Dinglehopper, which heals one person for 1 damage, which is really all you need because you're just trying to do a little bit of healing every turn. Then you have Gumbo Pot, which removes 1 damage from 2 characters. So again, there's 3 damage you can remove from 3 different characters turn of. You have Jasmine, Queen of Agrabah, which can remove 2 damage from every character when she quests. And so theoretically, if you have 3 characters with 2 damage apiece, Dinglehopper heals 1 off of 1. The Gumbo Pot heals 1 off of the other 2, and then Jasmine heals heals them all 3 again. So that's like 12 lore from 1 turn.
Yeah, if you're playing against Grand Pabby, you have to take him out
Instantly.
like 100%.
But that's the thing though, is he has technically an on-play ability because you can do all of that in 1 turn, and there's nothing they can do about it.
Yep.
So that's my second deck is very, and to go back to where you started there, is to have a bunch of Amber and to have a bunch of healing. And I think the other cool card, which I don't know if you paid attention to or not, was the Queen from Amber that has the shift ability because she's Floodborn, but it also is whenever this character quests, chosen opposing character gets -4 strength, and chosen character gets +4 strength. So
yeah, I did see that one. That one definitely looks like it's going to be a good card.
Yeah, so I think Amber is very lacking in its challenging ability. It has a little bit of support with like the Maximus Palace Horse, but having this that can activate with that support every turn, I think is really, really powerful.
So I'll go back to our card of the day.
And that's why I said this one next,
okay.
is because it ties into his and the Amber, but it also ties in to what you talked about and that. So go for it.
So with our card of the day, Growing Girl, Ariel, I think is that what it is?
Let me look it up real quick. But yeah, just quick recap on that one. And
so she gives everyone on the board support. So
correct.
Evil Queen will gain support, but she also in her ability gives +4 strength to someone.
So she can technically give Alice, Growing Girl, 8 strength, and so that puts her at 9, just off of the Queen.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty insane.
So she only needs 10, so all you have to do is have one other card on the board. Yep. And she has the 10 she needs. And being 3 cost, like she's just a massive problem way earlier on. Because Belle, to get to 10 ink, like I know that you can ramp with Sapphire pretty quick, and so you can get there probably 6 or 7 turns, so it's not 10 turns. But Alice, conceivably turn 4, you can have that ability activate and being able to quest for 5. Yep. So I think she's way stronger than Belle.
Yes, for sure. I agree. And Amber has all the bodyguards. So you're going to be able to... has a few really good bodyguards. So you can
and Aurora in Sapphire to protect her from direct removal too, if it gets to that point where you need to. So I think that Alice is going to go in that deck because the Sapphire Amber healing deck I have had the Queen in it to begin with, and I had a few open slots, and I think if I get Alice, I think that's going to fill it because I think it gives you early on threats, but then it ramps you into Pabby to finish the game with the healing.
Any thoughts, Spencer?
No, I agree.
So that's where we kind of wanted to go with that one. I think it's going to be a really, really, really annoying card. The 4 willpower is going to keep her alive from smashes. It's going to make you have to grab your swords twice. Mm-hmm. It's going to require a lot of direct removal to get her off the board. And with the healing that you will inevitably have with Amber and the Dinglehopper potentially on the board already, like you can just sit there in early game, heal her a little bit to keep that alive and keep going, and make it even more annoying to remove. So, yeah. So I talked a lot about what I want to play now. So what's your main deck and your main style here?
I think I might have hinted at it earlier in the episode and past episodes, but Grand Duke Royals deck.
Yeah, so we've definitely talked about it a little bit, but it's definitely more fleshed out now just because there's been more characters and more cards revealed.
Yeah, if you want to fill air real quick, I'll look at my specific deck I'm working on.
Yeah, so the Grand Duke is a card that's 2 cost in Amber that adds 1 strength to every king, queen, prince, and princess. And there's a bunch of them in Amber and Steel. And so it's Amber, Steel, and then basically you just play Grand Duke and are able to challenge till your heart's content, because all of them are going to have a bunch of strength from Grand Duke.
So I've got one non-royal character in there. Actually, two. Lilo is in the deck. I put her in.
Little aggro play.
Put her in because I've got two bodyguards. So I put her in just there. And then Li Shang, I put him in as a non-royal. Just because basically building up Cinderella to be the biggest challenge.
There's a ton of evasion that's coming in too, so the more, having a way to deal with that with Li Shang is always going to be a good idea.
Yep, for sure. I've got Moana, let me see, of Montanui. So she can ready Cinderella again, can challenge. And if Cinderella ever gets damaged, I've got Cinderella Gentle and Kind to help her out, and I've also got Rapunzel gifted with healing.
Yep.
And then a bunch of songs. I've got Grab Your Sword, Whole New World.
Which, you have those songs because Cinderella can challenge readied characters when a song is played. So
I might work the new Mulan, Floodborn, into this deck at some point because she can play a free song.
Yeah.
I might work her in.
There's got to be a way to, and obviously you can't use Ursula's Cauldron because that's Amethyst with this deck specifically, but I think there's a way to potentially sift through the deck a little bit to get some of those songs. But okay, so yeah, there's kind of our decks. I talked a little bit about the Prince John discard stuff, and I want to get to that a little bit in a second. But with that said, have you looked at the new mechanics, like the resist we talked about?
I have not.
Okay, so resist is the newest change to the mechanics of the game. It is basically what resist says is it reduces the damage that you take in a challenge by a given amount. So most of them have resist 1, which means if you only take 1 damage, then you take 0 damage. The big Cinderella that he has in his deck that he's talking about, it has resist 2. And then there are certain items and actions that will allow you to grant resist to other characters or to your card for a given turn. So characters with resist are really strong against early game characters.
For sure.
I know you haven't played as much as we have, but that changes the dynamic because it doesn't allow you to challenge in low cost characters into your big characters late game.
I mean, with Cinderella, she's a challenge card, and she can live for a long time with resist +2.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe 3 challenges.
And throw some healing in there, and you're
good to go.
Alive for quite a while.
Draw some cards by healing with Rapunzel. I mean, hopefully that's what I'm going for. In theory, that's what I'm going for. But
yeah, okay. And then so I want to talk about my other deck. I've touched on it a little bit, but I think this will be some fun to get your take on it too, because it could be incredibly annoying. But so Prince John is the other strategy that I definitely want to work around, which is the discard strategy of whenever your opponent discards a card, you get to draw a card, and so you cause misfortune to your opponents and gain from misfortune, kind of like Prince John wants to do, I suppose.
Yeah, that's not annoying.
Yeah, so here's kind of my thoughts on the Prince John deck I've built.
he's going to be the most hated player in League.
We definitely said that. So it's an Emerald Amber deck. So again, we're centered around Amber, and the reason behind that is you have lanterns to make you not have to ink as much because there's not a ton of card draw if John gets taken off the board. But there's Sudden Chill, which is a song you can sing, so you don't have to use your ink to play it. But it's just each opponent discards a card. So they discard a card, you gain a card on that turn. And that's a 2-cost card, so you can either play it on turn 2 or sing it on turn 3. And then you also have You Have Forgotten Me, which is an Amber already as well, which basically just says your opponent chooses and discards 2 cards. So imagine turn 3 they discard a card, turn 4 they discard 2 cards. You're really affecting their ability to ink and play, because in those early turns, if you're not inking and playing, you're only doing one or the other. You're either building up your inkwell, which is great, but then you don't have any cards to play, or you're playing and you're not inking, so you can't get to your big bodies. And then lastly, you might actually like this one a lot because I know you're a big Ducks fan, is Daisy Duck, Secret Agent, and her ability is whenever she quests, each opponent chooses and discards a card. So imagine that you play her, or you've already done those other moves, so they don't have any cards, and you're playing Daisy. there's nothing they can do to get a card on the board because they don't have any in their hand.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just like, it's really annoying. So what, in general, I know not just specifically about this, the strategy that I've kind of laid out, but what are your thoughts on the discard strategy and playing against something like that in general?
It's probably going to be my least favorite.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of sentiment on that in the community, like online, but what's the strategy to counter that? We haven't really talked from that angle. Like, what do you do to counter that?
I mean, there has to be. Is there just going to be a straight up card your opponent can't discard cards from your hand? Like, I don't know.
There's not that we've seen. I mean, and the other one that I haven't even talked about yet is Bucky, who is the Squirrel Squeak tutor from Emperor's New Groove, who has ward. And Prince John has ward too, so they can't be directly removed unless you exert them, which those cards are just meant to stay on the board and create havoc. And Bucky says whenever you play a Floodborn character, each opponent chooses and discards a card. So again, Bucky just sits on the board. He only has 1 strength, and so I guess if you throw down a Tinkerbell, then he gets taken off. But it's just going to be so annoying to deal with.
So I would think the only thing that'd be able to stop someone like Prince John would be with maybe someone like John Silver and give him Reckless.
You can't. But he's got ward. You can't do that.
Oh, I guess you're.
So you have to have.
Doesn't he give everyone on the board Reckless?
No, you have to specifically. So I've got John in my deck too, and it says whenever you play this character and whenever he quests, chosen opposing character gains Reckless.
Gotcha. Okay.
So the only thing that you can really do is either Tinkerbell, Giant Fairy, to do the damage, which would take out Bucky. But Prince John has 2, and so you'd have to do 2 Tinkerbells to take him out, which is 7 turns into the game, and by that time he's already gone for 4 card removals. Mm-hmm. And then the other option is be prepared? Are you gonna just be prepared, Prince John?
Yeah, I don't know.
Which is obviously removes both of the cards, and so it's incredibly annoying. I don't know how you deal with it. I mean, I've kind of laid out all the again, if somebody has ideas that's better at this game than we are. How do you deal with that?
I don't know.
I mean, does super aggro, does that cause you to, if you play Pascal, and again, I like that. I know that's a very rare scenario, but you're going to have all the Pascals to begin with, but there's also the mini that's, I think, and Ruby that's evasive, that's really cheap now. Do you just play cheap evasive characters to get on the board and keep questing fast so that even though they may only have 3 or 4 lore on the board, you have to go do something about it to catch up because your idea has been to disrupt them up until that point. So Minnie Mouse, Stylish Surfer is a 3 cost evasive that quests for 2. I don't know. I mean, is evasive / aggro the play? What other option is there?
I don't think there is one, at the moment. Unless, we haven't gotten a ton of, Insane Ruby Chapter 2 yet announcements.
I don't think so really either. So
maybe that's kind of what we're going to get down the line.
Could be.
I don't know. But to answer your question, there's not much.
I don't think so either. And I'm throwing this out there because I just, I don't think my deck's perfect by any means that I've put together around Prince John. I'm sure there'll be some tweaking, but I think it's a really, really, really solid, annoying strategy. Okay, with that said, we've talked about this a little in the past, but I think it'll be cool to get Spenser's take on it. So in Chapter 1, you've played enough with us to understand that you basically get lore from questing, right? That's the only way really to get lore is to put your characters on the board and to quest them the next turn. The one real exception being Aladdin, Heroic Outlaw, which is, when he challenges, you gain 2 lore and banishes a character, you gain 2 lore and your opponent loses 2 lore. So that's kind of the one exception to the rule these days. In Chapter 2, we've already talked about Grandpappy that can get lore from healing. There's a new item called Sorcerer's Spellbook. That's an item, so it stays on the board. You can do it every turn, and it basically just says use to gain 1 lore. So you get a lore from an item. We've talked about Pabby, like it's just said, getting lore from healing. There's another card in Emerald that is very annoying, I think, that's going to be to deal with in the second set, which is basically you get lore from damage on opposing characters. And so it's Team Tactics, is that what it's called? Pack Tactics. And it's gain 1 lore for each damage characters opponents have in play. So if they have 4 damaged characters, like you play Tinkerbell, Giant Fairy from Steel, and then you play that card, like you get lore from damaged characters, so you don't actually have to, again, quest. And so the point I'm getting at is like the way to win the game has completely shifted. Like you don't just have to have questers on the board. You can have other strategies around it. So how do you feel that evolves the game? And of those kind of we just talked about, what would you like to play the most, I guess?
I mean, I think it changes it quite a bit. I think I'm probably going to be doing a healing.
Yeah, I think that's a really fun way to do it because you don't ever have to quest.
Yeah.
Like you can just challenge into theirs, heal those characters, and get lore.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the idea. I mean, I think it makes it way more dynamic, right?
Yeah,
For sure.
The capabilities or the way that you have to deal with it today is if the opponent has a bunch of characters on the board, you have to take them out.
Yep.
And if you have to take them out, you can't quest. And if you can't quest, you can't win. But in tomorrow's world, you can challenge and do a bunch of damage and then play pack tactics off of that and get the questing or the lore off of that. You can heal off of that and get more lore from Grandpappy. I think it just makes it such more of a dynamic game that you're going to be a lot harder pressed to read what your opponent's trying to do. I mean, if you know Grandpappy's down there, it's going to be heal. But yeah, I think it just makes it a lot more fun and dynamic way to play it versus playing characters and questing.
Absolutely, and there's even ways that you could play two of these cards together. You know, you could have healing, or what I've kind of thought about is having Shere Khan, which is whenever one of your character challenges another character, gain 1 lore.
I forgot about him, yeah.
So you could play that with pack tactics. If you have smaller cards like 1 cost, like Sergeant Tibbs and Mini, that'll do 1-2 damage, but then they're still on the board. So you get pack tactics from that, and then 1 lore from each challenge with Shere Khan.
If you have 2 Pabbies, or another example, it's like 2 Shere Khans. If you have 2 Shere Khans or 2 Pabbies on the board, if you do said action, does that mean you double the lore you get? I think so, right?
I mean, and Shere Khan's 3 cost.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. And I mean, that would be, with that logic, Grandpappy, if you were to do that, would be 4 lore.
That's what I mean. Like, is that because if you have 2 of those on the board and you heal twice, that's 8 lore, and then they can quest for another 6.
I have a few questions for Ravensburger from Chapter 2 so far, and that's one of them now.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know none of us are rules experts, and so we can't say, but I don't think there's anything that says only one of them. Like, there's nothing that says like it activates. It's not like exerting a card. It's not like Surfer or Rockstar Stitch, for instance. If you play a card and exert it, you can't exert it twice for 2 stitches.
Yeah.
You can only do that action once, but you remove the damage and you get 2 lore. But I don't know. Maybe it's since you're removing the damage, it only counts towards one of them. I don't know. It's interesting because if you have 2 Pabbies on the board, that's game over in 2 turns.
I mean, yeah, totally. Like, no doubt about that.
Better be prepared ready. That's all I'm saying. But
yeah, I mean, and then Aurora's on the board and they give him Ward. So, I mean, who knows?
Okay, I have to ask this question since we have the resident, not illustrator, but our resident artist / logo designer for us. Of the Chapter 2 cards, is there one art that sticks out to you? And I'll go to Jake first or I can even go first because I know my answer. If you guys want to look, I'm kind of throwing you off the cuff on this one, but mine, which I don't know, some might agree with, or some may have the same one, some may not. Mine would be Peter Pan's Shadow. So I
actually agree with that. I do have another one, but
it's a 4-cost uninkable in Amethyst, and 2 strength, 3 willpower, has evasive and rush, so it's a pretty crazy card to begin with. But the card art and the foil alone, with the shadows and the shimmering of the stars and the colors in the background, the foil of that one, I'm calling it right now, is going to be the prettiest card. Non-enchanted. We don't know what the enchanteds look like yet. I'm calling that's the prettiest non-enchanted card of set Chapter 2.
I completely agree.
Okay, Jake, let's hear what you think about the best art from Chapter 2.
Mine is, it's probably one of my favorite cards in Chapter 2 as well, is Cheshire Cat from the Shadows.
Okay, I was gonna peg you on the Honey Wizard. Still, I didn't know if you'd shift away from that or not. The Shadows is a really, really good card too.
I mean, it's like he's kind of there, he's kind of not. Not
only that, but it's maybe the best card in the set. Like, if we were to do a tier list right now, I think we'd probably say that one's the best card in the set. I would.
I mean...
Cinderella's up there.
It's in the conversation.
Cinderella's up there. I think...
The only thing I have against it is it doesn't always... it's not made... Like, it's not going to add damage itself.
No, but if you're playing with steel, then you don't need it to add.
That's just what I'm saying.
I hear you. It's fair, and it's expensive. I mean, it's 8 cost. I know it shifts for 5, but it's still expensive. So, I agree with that. I think that's a great pick too. But I also think it's a fantastic card. And way more playable than the Peter Pan, my choice. But okay, artist. Let's get the real artist's opinion on what the best art is.
Personally, I like the 0 to hero.
Okay. We've talked about that one in the past. Jake was super convinced that there was going to be like an immortal Hercules because of the background of the card. Yeah. We haven't seen that yet.
Only a Floodborn Hercules that we're still happy about.
Yeah, that's a pretty good Hercules
but
too.
But not immortal.
I do like the 0 to hero too. I think that card is decently playable as well. So you could see some good ones on there.
I mean, the art, to your point, is you got lots of things going on in the background. Lots of stuff that's happening. I took way too much from this card when I first saw it, but whatever. Okay,
another question. We've kind of already answered this a little bit, but what is your favorite property to enter the Chapter 2? So big one would be Seven Dwarfs. We've got Raya and the Last Dragon, which are both big ones. We have Sword in the Stone with Merlin and Madame Mim.
They were in Chapter 1.
What?
Archimedes and Merlin.
No, I'm saying like that's a big focus of those cards are a big focus of that property going into it. We also have a few more from Alice in Wonderland with like Queen of Hearts and the Cheshire stuff we've already talked about. You've got the Great Mouse Detective, which I know is Jake's answer for his favorite one with Basil and all of the shenanigans there. Obviously, the villains Jake's more into, and so you're gonna have that aspect of it with Ratigan, of course, and and then they just released Blue today, which is a really underwhelming card from Jungle Book. Jungle Book they also said would be a big property, but we haven't seen a ton of those cards yet.
Only Shere Khan and Blue is character.
Only Shere Khan and Blue.
And King Louis, actually. We just got
the King Louis card. We have to talk about that in a second too. The King Louis card is insane. Okay, with that said, what property / characters are you most excited to see?
I'm excited for any duck character.
I figured that would be your answer.
I love DuckTales.
I figured that would be your answer. Spencer would go crazy for a DuckTales. Like,
give me a Huey, Dewey, and Louie or Darkwing Duck or
I'd be psyched for Darkwing.
Launchpad.
I've seen some people campaigning for Darkwing. I've seen some people campaigning for Darkwing for sure. So the Daisy I mentioned, that's a really big one that's coming in. I like that one a lot. There is a new Donald in Emerald as well.
Sleepwalker?
I don't really like that one that much. I mean, the Donald Duck Perfect Gentleman, he shifts for 3. He has really good stats with 2 strength, 5 willpower for a 4-cost card. He does quest for 2 as well, but your opponent gets to draw a card at your turn as well, and so that's part of that discard like synergy that you have to have, that if you're going to give them a card, you better be ready to take it away as well. I do love the art on that Donald as well, so I think that one. And then, you have the Sleepwalker, which is another good card. I would probably play that one over the other one, but 0 strength. But yeah, so any duck characters, I should have just said that, but it didn't cross my mind at the time. But yeah, it's definitely doesn't shock me that you said that.
You also have a deep sea diver Donald Duck. But
have you seen the deep sea diver? That one's a good one too. Okay, so we're getting to the end of this now, so I do want to talk about that King Louis card because that is insane and really goes well with the healing decks and really any Amber deck in general because he's such a big body. But did you see the King Louis card today? Did. So I don't. What is his strength?
I'm bringing 8 willpower.
8 willpower and 3 strength. So 8 willpower, 3 strength, cost 7 is inkable. So it's crazy to be inkable. But his ability is he removes 2 damage from himself, or 2 damage is removed from him anytime a character is banished. So even if somebody else challenges, like let's say King Louis has 6 damage on him already, somebody else challenges, that removes 2 damage from him, and then he can challenge into somebody else with low strength to then take them out and not die, and then he gets 2 removed from him because he just banished a character on his challenge.
So
crazy card.
If if two characters, like two separate characters from King Louis, die in a challenge, banish in a challenge, he gets 4.
Yeah. So if you try to take, like, he cannot be challenged and removed. Like, I just don't see a way, because let's say you're Maui, you do 6 to him. You come in, you do 6. You live through that challenge if you're Maui. So you would either have to, like, Shield of Virtue, ready back up, challenge him again. But that's, very situational. And so ideally that doesn't happen. So somebody else has to come in and finish him off, I guess. But, I mean, Maui's the only real count. Maui and Maleficent are the only real, like, character counters that I see, because they don't get banished and they do a ton of damage. Yeah, he's an insane card, and I think he goes incredibly well with the Pavi synergies we were talking about, because he does passive healing.
Yes.
You don't have to actively exert or play a Rapunzel to heal, or exert your Dinglehopper or your Coconut Basket or your Gumbo Pot or anything. You challenge, he gets healing, you get lore. Like, it's crazy.
He's also a royal card. He's a king. Just saying. He's not going to go with my deck, but I'm just saying, more to the royals.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. So I think that I'm glad we remembered that King Louis one, because I think that's a crazy one too. But okay, so yeah, I mean, that's the chapter 2 preview. I think we talked about our decks, talked about some of the new strategies that are going to be involved in the game with the healing and the discard and the damage that you can, or the lore that you can get from damage. So yeah, I mean, there's just so many different opportunities now, and I think it's going to really change. And so in the upcoming weeks, we'll be diving into all the new strategies and decks and deep dives and everything. So
how do you feel about chapter 2 as a whole right now, Spencer?
I think it's great if I can get my hands on it.
There you go. That's all of us right now.
Okay, I'm putting him on the spot. You're coming next weekend to play with us, correct?
Yes.
That's very non-committal.
I gotta see what's going on with the movie.
So it's very NDA. We don't even really know what's going on because he can't tell us. But Spenser is like lead digital artist at this point.
I wouldn't. I have a heavy role in.
You're not the lead digital artist, but all I know is that you're working on a bunch of characters for a animated movie, feature film, like going into theaters. I know that I've been told that they're known actors. I don't know which known actors. I know that it's going to be incredible, and all I know is that I want to see said movie because I want to see your work.
Yeah.
There you go. Nice plug.
Yeah,
we can't talk about.
Yeah, so at some point,
we can't mention the name.
At some point, if you're listening to this, we will eventually come back and tell you what movie when we are told, and it's when can you when it's announced or when it's released, or
I would
at
imagine
what point?
on a trailer.
Okay, so when the trailer comes out, we will tell you what he's worked on and when we find out. But he's been super busy on it, and all I know is that he keeps getting extra work because he's fantastic.
So that's a good excuse, is what we're saying. We're trying to say that's a good excuse.
Yeah, it's a good excuse, but it's also a bad excuse because no excuse is excusable from Chapter 2. Okay,
well, thank you for hopping in today, man.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
All right, well, we'll see you next week, everyone, and see you on Friday. Again, I think we mentioned this at the beginning, but we will be live Friday for the unboxing of Rise of the Floodborn as well. And so check our YouTube channel for all of the unboxings we're doing, and we will catch you next time. Thanks.
See you guys.